Woo! All right, we are live. Welcome back, everyone. This is Late Night with the Gringo, episode 42. It's somewhat of a glorious day. It's somewhat of a good day if you're a Star Wars fan. I don't mean to... I know. You shouldn't pick on other people's misery, but it's not like this person.
Some people's miseries truly are the fortune of others.
Well,
right?
You know what? Hopefully it is. So the news broke today. Kathleen Kennedy was supposed to save Star Wars. Instead, she ruined it. She is going to be out at the end of the year, 2025 now. That's both good and bad because it's just the end of February. It's like, when Joe Biden dropped out of the race, he's still president for a few months. He can still screw things up pretty bad.
Still have to deal with it.
Yeah. So, it shows the thumbnail, Kathleen Kennedy showing us her, her chest, which is...
That's the thumbnail?
The thumbnail is her opening up where it's Star Wars with like the rainbow around it. And
oh, no.
I was going to go with the Force is female, but we've seen that one enough. But what she's done, listen, at Lucasfilm, it was basically as a golden goose. She was given control over it. And
you really didn't have to do much. You just had to listen to, I'm not saying the nerds, but just the geeks, the nerds, the people who were already in charge there and knew what they were doing. And
just listen to the fandom.
Yeah, even the fandom. I'm not saying you have to please the fan base constantly. But again, they're the ones who put you in that position.
Yeah. Well, George Lucas put her in that position.
George Lucas.
I think he regrets that.
George Lucas. And then you had the perfect spot to kind of just build from. And you decided to take a wrecking ball and just destroy any support you could have going further. Or forward, I should say, not even further.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bad.
Well, let's run down some of the things. We're going to go over some of the good and the bad. Okay, let's cover the good, okay? I think she was president when she was president. Rogue One.
Yeah, that was good.
I like Rogue One. I know some people have some problems with that particular film. I really enjoyed it. Mando season 1 and 2. Cool. Mm-hmm. Season 3 is in the other category. Andor season 1. Okay. Cool. Financially, The Force Awakens was a huge success. Whether it was a great movie or not, or just
it was average. It wasn't terrible. They just kind of redid A New Hope.
They redid A New Hope. It wasn't anything...
but just bigger and badder. And then they destroyed Coruscant.
And then they destroyed Coruscant. And, of course, Daisy Ridley's character, the all-powerful girl boss who knows how to do everything, even though,
No training needed.
No training needed. Can fly the Millennium Falcon, no problem. I'm wonderful. Nothing against Daisy Ridley. I think she's a fine person. I think she's probably taken more gruff and crap than she deserves, but...
For the role, yeah.
For the role. So I hope her other film... She's in another couple of films this year, and I don't think they're set for limited release, which means that they don't think it's going to make that much money, so they're not going to do a worldwide release. So we got those. Those are the wins. I think those are all the wins I can think of. So let's count...
Oh, hold on. Animated series. What came out? Was the Bad Batch out by then? They did a good job with the anime. I think.
Well, no, Tales of the Jedi wasn't that great, but Tales of the Sith I thought was better. But those are forgettable things. Those are just a couple of animated series.
True, but they have some meaning.
Yeah, Skeleton Crew had potential, but it just didn't make it.
I thought it did.
Not for me.
For you,
I kept falling asleep while watching it. I just kept falling asleep.
I'm thinking if I'm not mistaken, 3D animated, right?
No, that Skeleton was live action. That was the live action with Jude
Law. Yeah, I'm thinking something else. I'm sorry.
So let's look over the failures. Let's not even go to Star Wars first. Let's look at Indiana Jones and the Dial of Dysentery. I watched it. Yes, I watched it, so I can critique it because I did watch it, even though a lot of you probably didn't because you knew it was coming and it was exactly what you thought it was for not watching it, and it was terrible and. I wish it never happened. It made Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It made it look like a Spielberg height of his creative powers kind of movie. So she ruined Indiana Jones. Willow, oh my God. Look, if you're Generation X, if you're my age and you remember the movie Willow when it came out, it was awesome. It was just a great fantasy little film and had a lot of fun. Val Kilmer, Warwick Davis. It was just a cool little, kind of medieval action adventure kind of thing and fantasy. And then they decided to do this series, bringing it back, and it was terrible. It was so bad they removed it from the Disney platform.
I never saw it.
Yeah, you never will. They removed it from the Disney platform. That's how bad it was.
Did you see it before it was taken away? Or not?
I saw the first few episodes, and I said I can't watch it.
Well, how did they ruin it? I guess for those
poor acting, poor writing, all about identity politics.
Really?
Yeah. So,
why Willow?
Why not? That's what she was doing, infecting everything else with it. So she's like, okay, I get this property here. Might as well do this too.
All right.
And then we get to Star Wars. We got, like I said, we already talked about The Force Awakens, but then you get to The Last Jedi. Terrible. Well, I mean, that was the hammer strike that cracked the whole thing in half.
Is that the second one, right?
Yeah,
The Last Jedi.
yep.
That was. It had potential. I think when you watched the trailer, you thought, okay, this could be cool. This could be fun. You kind of saw, but then you also kind of thought this is a little bit ripping off of Hoth, and it did rip off a good chunk of Hoth.
It did, but still, it wasn't even that. It was just the fact that Luke Skywalker throwing his lightsaber over his shoulder. It was just
you ruined the characters that were beloved.
Yeah, you crapped all over the character. Him drinking the green milk out of the titty of the whatever that
was. It green? I thought it was blue milk.
No, this time it was green.
It looked green, but wasn't it called blue milk?
It probably was. I don't know, but it was green to me. I'm colorblind. Y'all can correct me if you want. But all of that. And then you get to the Rise of Skywalker, where basically Daisy Ridley's character steals Luke's X-Wing, steals his lightsaber, steals his home, steals his name.
Steals his identity.
I mean,
he stole his
Talk about female empowerment. All you got to do to be great is steal everything a guy did. Okay.
Or maid.
Or whatever. And then somehow Palpatine returned. So basically that movie negated every sacrifice Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader made at the end of Return of the Jedi. It negated his whole hero's journey. It negated every bit of it, and basically said it didn't matter.
I think the idea with the Palpatine callback, because it was never hinted at the entire. They never built on it. Remember?
No, they had no plan going.
They had no plan, and I think that was because that was supposed to be like fan service. They intended for it to be fan service, and they miserably failed at that because instead of appeasing the fans, it actually made the fans be like, "Wait, you just made our favorite trilogy." Almost, if not completely meaningless.
I think also it was also part that they just didn't have a plan, and they're like, "What do we do now? Oh, let's resurrect Palpatine." It was just it was so poorly done.
You know what it was? It was like, well, can't do Leia no more. She's dead. What other Star Wars actors alive? Palp's still kicking.
Yeah,
bring him in.
Yeah. I mean, they screwed Finn over. I mean, I kind of liked him as a character.
I like Finn. They could have developed him really.
They could have developed him much better. But also, it really tells you a lot with what they did with the posters for China with Finn, shrinking him down to size and putting him into the background instead of having him up front. Because China, you can't have a black man or a black gay man starring in this movie because it would insult the Chinese, which, had nothing to do with his character. Who cares, right? I mean,
it's Star Wars.
And I think he's come out and said some critical things of Lucasfilm, Disney, and the whole Star Wars process and being in those movies. And I think, you know what? Somebody ought to listen to him because I think everything he had to say is quite valid.
It's fair.
Quite valid. And I hope that he gets another shot at something else to really kind of stretch his wings, spread his wings as an actor. You had who's it? Isaac? What's his name? Oscar Isaacs. Who's one of the Poe Dameron. He's probably one of the better actors of his generation.
Right.
And I'm not saying that he's like the Al Pacino of his time or anything like that. He's not.
I mean, they got to play Moon Knight. I mean, a couple other roles. I think he's getting prominent.
Don't get me started on Moon Knight.
I know,
don't do it.
But I'm just saying.
You get the
role,
but he's
because
done
you're
other.
good.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
He did a lot of other great films and put in a lot of. But again, I think you had a waste with him. You wasted him. And
I think that first movie, as much as we dislike it for copying A New Hope, you really could have built off of that base into something. Because, like I said, some people had problems with it because it wasn't a full copycat, but it was very similar to a copycat. But the characters were still likable at the moment. You didn't mind Rey. You liked Finn. Poe was cool. Kylo was intriguing, even though he was a little bit emo, kind of too much in that, in my opinion.
A little bit emo, yeah. It's like,
but beyond that, they were still likable. There was still something there. You were kind of intrigued by Captain Phasma. I was like, oh, this is.
Let me actually ask you this too. Like, one of the things we love about the prequel trilogy,
right,
is the lightsaber duels.
Oh my god!
Some of the best lightsaber duels you're gonna find in all of Star Wars.
Listen, you talk shit about the prequels growing up.
I did because
I've grown
to love them. I've grown to love them.
I grew up with them, so I didn't hate them immediately, but I understood some of the hate.
I've grown to love them.
Listen, was it Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah, Revenge of the Sith, which we're going to talk about in a minute.
Love that. That's like one of my favorites of all time. That opening scene will never beat any Star Wars opening ever.
Actually, for me, it's the second best opening.
Really? What's the first
First one is A New Hope, because if you're in the theaters and you've never seen anything like that,
okay, true. And you just hear the
but then you get the ship coming over, you get the Star Destroyer coming over.
No. Okay, that's fair. Okay, for you that makes sense.
That
for me
was we're all in the theaters as kids going, whoa.
For me, that's number 2 because I also grew up. Because you put me on them when I was young. I'm not saying you indoctrinated me, but you indoctrinated me into Star Wars. You're like, here, I got something cool for you.
Maybe that's what's wrong with you. Maybe that's the difference between you and your brother, right? I made you watch Star Wars. I made him watch The Usual Suspects and Seven. But anyways.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, there's nothing remarkable. If I say to myself, well, I really feel like, okay, we just moved to a new house. And when you move into a new house, you get to buy a new TV. So I bought a new TV. So what's the first thing you do? You want to test out the TV once it's all hooked up? What better thing is to test out the TV, theatrical and sound and video and all that. And
resolution. Watch a movie.
Watch a movie. What movie? A Star Wars movie, right? So I fire up Disney Plus and I'm going through it. I'm not Rise of Skywalker. Not last. No.
It's just you're skipping those two.
You put on the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, or put on Empire Strikes Back, and let's go. And that's how I tested it out. So nothing remarkable. This trilogy, that Disney trilogy, is just not going to be remembered for anything great.
If anything, it'll be remembered for wasting the last opportunity you had to have the core 3 all together. Because you can't ever go back and be like, here's another Leia.
There's another layer. There's Mary Poppins in space.
Poppins in space.
What? I remember watching that the first time going, what is going on here?
The Force, you can breathe in space.
And we can use light speed to ram a ship into another ship.
Now, I understand that it's technically through the lore, it's possible to use light, but it's not light speed itself. It's the initial, right before you go into light speed.
Yeah.
But that's not what they did. They have her fully go into light speed and then
eviscerate everything. But yeah, she's going. Who knows what kind of damage she's going to leave on her way out? There was a lot of factors. Of course, I think. Do I think she's being forced out? No. I think she's just had enough and said, okay, I'm going to go retire. I'm rich enough. Me and my husband are rich enough. And she thinks she's done great things with the Acolyte. She thinks that was great. It was sucked. She thinks Ahsoka was great. It wasn't great. It was mediocre at best, and probably wasn't even mediocre. Obi-Wan series, complete. Here's Obi-Wan, here's Darth Vader. How do you screw that up?
How did you had a winning formula there, and you took 2 + 2 = 4, and you found a way to try to make. You were like, I know it equals 4, but what if it equals 5?
Yeah. They took the 3 coolest characters in Disney in Star Wars lore. You got Vader, Obi-Wan,
right?
Screwed them up.
Luke.
No. The other coolest character, the one that fans, Boba. The Book of Boba Fett, right?
Yeah.
At first I started, I'm like, okay, I'm enjoying this. And I'm like, okay, something's wrong with this series. And I'm like, you want to see Boba Fett flying around in his jetpack just smoking people. But no, you never really saw that.
He epitomizes the idea of being a badass bounty hunter.
And he turned into a negotiating
mayor?
Kind of like mayor. I'm like, okay.
But not even a good mayor, just an average, kind of almost shitty mayor.
Yeah. And then Cad Bane showed up, and they had that little thing. And he had the Vespas, the brightly colored Vespas, which I was just like, who made that aesthetic decision? So she's gone. I don't know. Again, I'm always going to be a diehard. I'm always going to love Star Wars. I'm always going to give it a chance.
You're going to always let it hurt you.
I'm always going to let it's the ones who love you who hurt you the most. Or it's the ones you love that hurt you the most. Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see if the Rey Palpatine or Rey Skywalker, whatever you want to call it, comes out. We'll see what happens with Mando and Grogu film. We'll see what happens with the Dawn of the Jedi film with Mangold. We'll see what everything else, if they're going to happen, if they're not going to happen. But here's the big thing. Who's going to take over? Is it going to be Filoni? Dave Filoni, who I don't think is really the one that you want because he's part of that agenda that she had. Or is it going to be Favreau, which I don't think Favreau's even really kind of involved too much. I think he sort of stepped back a couple of ways, but
oh, no, not
there's all sorts of rumors out there. All sorts of rumors. Yeah, that guy.
This guy, no.
That guy. Yeah, that guy. That's Dave Filoni. You saw that.
I'm going. Star Wars Rebels isn't bad. Bad Batch is good.
But it's after he drank the Kool-Aid of Kathleen Kennedy.
Oh, he joined that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Really?
But we've been wanting it for years. People have been calling it for years. You had all the clickbait. You had tons of clickbait over the last 3 years. I can't count. I can't even remember how many clickbait thumbnails there were with Kathleen Kennedy fired, Kathleen Kennedy out, Kathleen Kennedy gone, and finally it seems to be a reality. So I guess the people who are doing all those clickbaits are going to have to find something to clickbait about. But
can we just give it to Feige?
no, don't give it to Feige.
Not Feige.
He's got enough problems. Leave Feige alone with Marvel.
Who's the other person you can give
Favreau.
it to? Favreau
Favreau's the only other person I think you can give it to. I don't think anyone else is out there. Give it back to maybe Lucas.
Yeah, Favreau. I'd be happy with Favreau.
But there's the picture. There she is smiling like a person who came into your house for dinner and took a dump on your floor and thought it was a good thing. That's her. That's Kathleen Kennedy. So, but speaking of Star Wars, hey, there we go. We got to get tickets to this. Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith returns to theaters for 20th anniversary. Hell yeah. I'll go see this beginning April 25th, the third installment of the Star Wars prequel trilogy will return to select theaters across the U.S. and internationally for a limited one-week engagement. And we happen to live in one of the biggest cities in Mexico. I'm sure there's going to be a showing or two.
I hope they have at least one.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that movie right there is what truly got me to Star Wars.
Yeah, so fans can experience the film in several formats, including the immersive 4DX, which
I don't know if you'd live that.
I saw. What was we saw Red One with The Rock, that Christmas movie, and the only showing was 4DX. So I'm like, okay, and I forgot what 4DX was, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is the one where the seats move, and you got like, okay, if there's like water on the screen, it gets sprayed in your face a little bit.
I love that 4D.
Right?
Oh, can we?
But the thing is, like, you're holding on to the chair. Like, if you're me and you're practically a cripple, you're just like, oh my god, like afterwards, I'm like, I had the worst ab workout in the world. My lower back hurt. My wife's like, I want to go vomit. I'm like, okay.
Dude, imagine the opening scene.
Oh yeah, with it just diving
down.
All right, the hell with it. We'll do 4D. You know what? Your mother and I will go see it in regular theaters with you, and then we'll bring you, and then you and I will just go 4DX.
Yeah, so she can compare it.
Because I'm gonna get literally. I almost got thrown out of my seat at one point. During this thing.
I can't wait to
literally. I'm holding on, and then you're like, sometimes there's an empty seat next to you, and you like to put your popcorn there and whatnot because there's no trays.
You can't do that.
Well, I didn't. I totally forgot. So I was like, so I put the stuff there, and I'm like, oh wait, the chairs are moving. And all of a sudden, my popcorn goes flying, and I'm like, shit. It's like, but yes. Yes, let us go see
I want to see you go flying within like the first 10 seconds.
20th anniversary right there, baby.
Dive bombing.
Revenge of the Sith.
Gringo's going to be in the front row.
That's good Star Wars.
And you can review it too, even though it's,
I want to review this new movie I saw. You might not have heard of it. It's called Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith. Starring this young upcomer.
Wow.